Hi YouTubers, this is another video from your friendly neighborhood reviewer Evelyn. Today we're going to be continuing reviewing the new Korean drama series Doctorcha, which you can find on Netflix. We last left off that Doctorcha has successfully passed her doctor exam again, and she's doing an interview in the same hospital which her husband and her oldest son is working as an intern in the same hospital, which came to a surprise to her son as he was interviewing again in the same place and he saw his mom. So we initially thought that she got rejected from the interview as she got the phone call, and her husband conveniently kind of manipulated that, and he went and encouraged his wife to go on a trip with her friend who's the plastic surgeon. So as she goes off to the airport with her friend, she gets a phone call saying she's been accepted as a resident again, and we can say that the plastic surgeon friend is the only real person apart from Dr. Cha's mother that's really supporting her. We can have that moment of triumph. And of course her son is Jungmina is coming to terms with his mom wanting to be a doctor, but of course Jungmina, the older son, he's more cautious because of the health-wise, it's more genuine. As where the husband is clearly trying to avoid his wife working in the same hospital where his first love / mistress is also working at. So as she gets accepted into the department, she meets again the first love, the mistress of Song-hee, and she reintroduces herself. She's legitimately surprised that she meets again this woman. So of course the woman is biting back a lot of things, and I kind of stand. She was resentful that her boyfriend at the time went and cheated on her and got some other woman pregnant. I get that. But you move on. You don't go back to this guy that clearly has got a spine to leave his wife and still carry on this illicit relationship. So she gets surprised that Dr. Cha gets into her department of family medicine, and she's clearly not happy. She tells her boyfriend / Dr. Cha's husband to do something about it, and he tries to gaslight her as well by saying we can just make her quit. And then we get the scenes where Dr. Cha in episode 3, she's having her first day as a resident again. She tries to get along with the younger ones, but then again we can see that resentment, which technically everybody's against her from being a doctor except for Dr. Roy Kim, in which coincidentally he starts off as the first day working in the hepatology department. I think something to do with the liver and the kidneys and that kind of stuff, and he happens to know that Dr. Cha is a resident again, and he's very happy about that. He tries to find her, but on the first day when Dr. Cha's husband finds out that his wife is working in the same hospital, in which is a scene that he almost gets a heart attack, he finds out that Dr. Roy Kim, his wife's surgeon, is there. So he goes rushing to Dr. Roy Kim, telling him, just pretend you don't know me or your wife. He says to keep it delicate, and Dr. Roy Kim knows what's going on. This actor, he's the audience. He's playing as the audience, that he's the person knowing the full truth of the scope. So Dr. Cha has a rough day. She's trying to get used to the whole atmosphere, and by the end of episode 3 she meets up with Dr. Roy Kim. They have a candid conversation where Dr. Roy Kim tells Dr. Cha bluntly, I thought you would have already left your husband, in which Dr. Cha spits out her coffee and says, don't ask me a question like that even if you're joking, it's so serious. And Dr. Roy kind of tells her in other words, like, why are you still with him? I thought if you would have already recovered, you would have left. And Dr. Cha tells Dr. Roy, you've never been married. He says no. So you have to understand that getting divorced takes 10 times more courage than getting married. So for my instance, Dr. Cha, I think she's trying to hopefully make the steps to make her own life so she can separate from the husband, because as we know that there's nothing in her name, neither the house, the credit cards, nothing is in her name. So if she were to divorce, she'd be left penniless. Other parts from episode 3 to 4, Dr. Cha gets put in charge of this VIP patient, I guess the businessman that's having colon issues, maybe colon cancer, let's say, and she's having to deal with him being a little bit abrasive. And of course, moving on to the other bit of the scene, that the mistress of Dr. Cha's husband manages to get Dr. Cha away from her team, as a person from the husband's team had to leave because she got pregnant. So we have that awkward scene where Dr. Cha's husband is her superior, the doctor in charge, and of course she's working with her son. So we have that awkward moment. And we get other parts of the episode to see how Dr. Cha is going around being a resident. Yeah, she's starting to remember her things. There's part from episode 3 to 4 in which her oldest son, says, okay, I'll support your dream. If you need me, just call me, and what she does to an excessive amount, and which leads her son to tell her, I thought you were meant to be really clever. Why ask me for so many things? And Dr. Cha puts out the mother card, in which makes her son feel guilty. And the son sends Dr. Cha some links to YouTube videos in which she can watch. Of course, back in her day, there was no such thing as YouTube, so she would be able to see certain procedures on the video so she can memorize and learn. The bad thing about this, since Dr. Cha is a mature student, they're not really helping her. They assume that she should already know these things, but of course, there's a lot of ageism that goes within this show to say that since she's already of a certain age that she can't be able to develop. And the other bits from 3 to 4 is the youngest daughter, she's a little bit spoiled. So she's really angry that her mom is not driving her around to college, she's not helping her with certain things, or to high school, and not helping her to get to college. And Dr. Cha tells her daughter, you're the one taking the test, not me. You want me to sacrifice my whole life and you not appreciate it? So we have that little bit of a drama. Now, the ultimate iconic scenes from 3 to 4 is the whole team are going for drinks, including the husband, Dr. Roy Kim, and this other guy, the whole team. So everybody's excited apart from the husband. But Dr. Roy Kim, he's loving the situation. Dr. Roy Kim looks at Dr. Cha, similar to the extraordinary attorney Byung-chul. He looks at Dr. Cha as something special, different, something genuine. Of course, Dr. Cha doesn't need a love interest per se, because maybe the whole point of this show is to show that she only needs herself. She needs to build up her own self-esteem. But let's give Dr. Cha somebody that would genuinely love her, because her as a doctor, a wife, and let's say a woman that's a bit underdeveloped here, she's a happy, genuine person. But then again, people have taken advantage of her. So the iconic end of the episode 3 is everybody's going for drinks, and then one of the colleagues, that same level as Dr. Cha's husband, asks her, oh, you were since you weren't practicing for 20 years, you was a housewife, so how's your husband? And Dr. Cha says, well, the Dr. Roy Kim's there looking with his eyes smiling, and the husband, she says, oh, my husband's dead. And the end of episode 3, the husband spits out the drink, and Dr. Roy Kim is almost, he wants to laugh. And then on episode 4, we have those, scenes of the this other guy asking Dr. Cha, oh, he's already drunk, if you don't mind me asking, when did he die? And Dr. Cha in a moment has to come up with some BS, and she says, oh, a long time ago. I don't even know if we were married, which was just so hilarious, because you see Dr. Cha really taking back her power. And Dr. Roy Kim, he's looking with the eyes, he's like, I'm just watching the show, I'm sitting back watching the show, or what's going on. The most poignant conversation from episode 4 is when Dr. Cha gets a motorcycle ride back home with Dr. Roy Kim, and Dr. Roy Kim tries to ask her why she's not leaving per se, and then Dr. Cha tries to rationalize that not married couples don't necessarily always love each other forever. But then Dr. Roy Kim says, well, I can understand that, but at least must be some respect, which takes Dr. Cha back, and Dr. Roy Kim is apologizing if he overstepped the mark. Other parts from episode 4, we see Dr. Roy Kim's story. We find out that he was adopted by an American couple, I assume, because his full name is Dr. Roy Kimberly. Wow. And he's trying to probably find his origins, who was his birth parent in Korea, in which we get his story. And the other more vital point within episode 4, we find the daughter of the mistress. I have a sick feeling she's probably the half-sister, maybe? Illegitimate. I have this feeling she's probably the half-sister of Dr. Cha's children, because I don't know, she's the similar age as Dr. Cha's youngest daughter, because she has 2 kids, the eldest and her youngest daughter. They're both similar ages, and the mistress daughter knows that her mom is having an affair with Dr. Cha's husband, so that's a bomb that's waiting to go off. And Dr. Cha's daughter and the other girl, they are having lunch in the house, and the daughter or the mistress like drops a line saying, oh, you put your husband's, you know, where the golf course where he is, but convening the mistress, prime place for affairs to happen. That is planting more of a seed of doubt within Dr. Cha. So she goes and starts maybe researching what's going on with her husband, and she finds the receipt of a bracelet which the husband bought for the mistress, and she questions the husband, and the husband, for who he is, gaslights her again, saying, oh, you ruined the surprise, the bracelet was meant for you. And the husband is forced to buy another bracelet that's extremely expensive on installments to cover his back. So throughout episode 4, we see that she's doing her own things, but the patient that she was managing of this VIP business guy, he breaks down knowing that he's gonna have to wear a colostomy bag because he has, you know, colon cancer, and he breaks down and she feels sorry for him. She feels that empathy because of course it's a horrible thing to know that you'd be wearing a colostomy bag. I'm not going to explain forward that because you get the picture. It's a very sad moment. She gets called back in more later on within the episode that the VIP patient, the old guy, he discharged himself apparently and he collapsed and he was flatlining. So she goes there to help the slightly like higher resident, maybe the second year resident in her husband's team, in trying to revive the guy. And she's very shocked that he's dying because she created that emotional connection, I guess, with him. So they're trying to resuscitate him with the defibrillator and everything. And in that moment, she sees her husband bumping into the mistress. She's already introduced herself to the mistress, this woman or Song Hye, I can't remember her name. I'm doing this off the top of my head, what I remember from the show. And they already had that really frank conversation that Dr. Cha, like being the bigger person, apologizing for the whole scenario. She felt, you know, really ashamed at how things went about that one night stand, the pregnancy, that she, you know, went between this person's relationship and her husband's at the time. And the woman was caught off guard. But she knows what she's doing, this woman, the mistress. She knows what she's doing, pursuing something. And to be in the state where this guy of So In-hung, the husband of Dr. Cha, that hasn't got the stones to separate from the wife, like whatever her reasons were originally, like move on. This guy, Dr. Cha's husband, so far, he doesn't show any great qualities that would even consider being in an affair with him to say, okay, I understand that, because this guy is knowing for telling you what you want to hear, but not the real truth. So as she's trying to help, Dr. Cha is trying to help the other doctor to resuscitate the patient, she sees her husband bumping into the mistress. And that moment, she sees the mistress carrying the bracelet that her husband bought, in which she looked up with the receipt what the bracelet looks like. And at that moment she realizes that they're having, well, us as the audience, we assume she realizes in that moment that they're both having the affair. Because at the same moment that the doctor is using the defibrillator, Dr. Cha places her hands on the body. So of course she got the electroshock of the defibrillator and she collapses. And then we get the end of episode 4. So this is the end of the video. There was quite a lot to cover, and we have the tension, the drama that is building up, the ultimate scene. There's 2 things that I don't want to happen. That the husband will change the situation and then make it look like it's through, even before Dr. Cha realizing any feelings with Dr. Roy Kim, saying that she's cheating with Dr. Roy Kim. If they do that, that is the most awful thing that they'll do. I'll still watch it anyway for the drama. But I hope Dr. Cha finds out, and I hope that the real things come about. Because if you truly don't love each other, it's best to separate in this case. And I do hope the kids find out and they realize who's the real victim here, their mom, not the dad. That the mom that sacrificed life and limb, even her own dreams and aspirations for her kids, that the kids that don't even realize. And they realize who's the real villain here, the father. And I hope the son finds out. I really hope the son finds out. So leave your thoughts down below, what you thought of the episode so far, and what you hope good things that will happen for Dr. Cha, because so far she hasn't got many supporters. And as I leave you always, stay safe. And I really appreciate any new viewers if we can hit the subscribe button. And as I leave you always, stay safe.